We talked to over a dozen residents, and they've given us a lot to follow up on, and hopefully we've given them some information that helps them understand some of our issues, such as utility companies do have access to a right-of-way, and by the way, we really can't tell Georgia Power or Comcast what to do. So it was a good meeting, and we will be following up on those issues. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. And let's see, Rosemary is on remotely. Marion is out of town, may join us when she can, and so we're looking for motion to excuse the absence of Kevin Crouch and Marion Mappel for the time being. May I have a motion? Second. Any objection? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have 3 guests. They indicate that Michael and Greg have indicated they don't have anything to comment. Lisa, do you have any comments? No. Okay, I will add your name to the list. Thank you for coming. With respect to the consent agenda, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? We are moving on to the report from the Landings Golf and Athletic Club, Mark Lassner.
Very short report. Happy to respond to any questions. Okay. So the club's financial condition remains healthy. Membership levels through June 30 of this year basically unchanged from year-end 2024. Total memberships sit at 3,436 compared to at the end of the year 3,441. Year-to-date operating profit is pacing ahead of budget. This is basically due to new members' initiation fees and some expense management. Club's 2025 strategic focus, you've heard this before, we remain focused on the same areas, improving the efficiency and effectiveness of our board and committee governance through various ways. That's working well. We are emphasizing from a board standpoint and management that the member experience. We're doing this in several ways, but we're really focused on 2 areas. Fix what we have, a lot of the capital projects we have are under the fix what you have. And then rules compliance is quite a major emphasis, and a lot of that is in conjunction with TLA. And then we do work closely with our community partners, especially TLA through our leadership council, and so I think that's working well. And then we are renewing our focus on our employees to make sure that we are the employer of choice in Savannah, and so that's something we started sort of later in the year. We did have one change in our board. Mr. John Evans retired or resigned to take on a role in his church, a big capital project at his church, and he felt he couldn't do both. So he and I talked, and he helped me recruit Jerry Stoltz, who was on the board already, the club board, and so he will fill a role for a period of time. He will not ever run the board. Not that he wouldn't want to, but we have made that agreement that he wouldn't do that. So we're lucky to have him step in, easy orientation. A lot of our committees and boards are talking about inflation. And so that's a topic I have nothing to report other than it's something that we're all dealing with at home, TLA, at the club. And so one thing we're trying to do is A, identify where it occurs, B, how can we manage it. But I think more importantly too is communicate with our members what is club inflation versus just plain old consumer price index inflation. So that's something that falls under our communication initiative. So that's really the club news. I wanted to kind of do some shameless plugs for upcoming club events, if I could. We're having a town hall. I know many of you are members. That's what I'm doing. We're having a town hall, our third town hall of 2025. We're having it tomorrow evening at Palmetto Ballroom. Dean Filippo, our board vice president, is our host. He's running the show. And then on October 3rd, we're having the club's Employee Appreciation Gala. So this would be employees doing, well, I won't spoil it. I'll let the teams organizing it explain it. But it's to raise funds for a variety of employee-focused initiatives. And in 2025, we're not having the New Year's Eve Gala, so that won't happen. And so we're kind of thinking this might kind of replace it for 2025. So I'll stop there. If anyone has any questions about the club, I'm happy to try to answer them.
Anyone have any questions for Mark? Thank you, Mark. I do have a couple things coming out of the drop-in that I will be reaching out to you on. Carl.
A couple of quick highlights before we turn it over to the rest of the staff. We are going to be working with the Communications Committee in a couple of weeks on the quarterly strategic plan report. Got some good feedback from Rob recently. I shared with Lynn as we're trying to make it make sense to the community, and I think Rob's thing is we want them to read it. So that's going to be a big focus for us there. The other one, Sean and Aaron and I got to check out the RV yard expansion today. That's coming along nicely. There's still a little bit of some paving work to do over there and some work once the crews get off of the mailbox and sign painting and can get into marking off the spaces, but we're hopeful to pull, if not all, then most of the people off of the waiting list there. So it's getting a lot closer on that. So, any questions on that or anything else? Yes.
Quick comment, something I learned yesterday that I'll share with the board. When we resurface our roads, we keep all that stuff that we scrape up and we store it out there, but over there off the border. So this repaving of the RV yard was all done with recycled asphalt from our roads, which saves something on the order of $25,000 just in costs for the surfacing material. So I didn't realize we did the recycling. I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah, we'd like to hold on our valuable materials, and then Sean cuts deals where if we have to pay to get something taken out, then maybe you get a little bit of this as part of that. Bartering, yes, he knows how to barter. Jessica with the financial.
We're going to take a look at the financial information as of the end of June 2025, which marks the end of the second quarter of 2025. At the end of June, cash equaled $6.9 million, investments equaled $10.5 million. That's $979,000 more than the combined cash and investments of 2024. We did have interest earnings in June of $50,121. Total year earnings through the end of June were $330,126. Total operating revenue at the end of June was $418,000, better than our budget projected. And total operating expenses at the end of June before depreciation were $36,000, better than our budget projected. That brings us to a net revenue at the end of June of $299,000, which is $455,000 better than our budget. Some of the main drivers that bring us to that $455,000 better than budget. On our revenue side, we've seen annual vehicle registration perform better than budget. Our rental income performing slightly less than our budget due to less of our lease income for our cell phone tower. The other category performing better than budget, mainly due to property that was in violation for a tree violation earlier this year, and also our Comcast revenue share performing better than our budget but declining compared to what we saw last year. On the expense side, IT support and engineering studies are performing better than budget, mainly due to the timing of our database transition and the studies that were budgeted for 2025, as those are continuing to happen throughout this year. Professional fees and staffing expenses performing more than our budget projected through the end of June. On the capital expense side, we've spent $2.5 million out of the $5.8 million budget. 67% of that on roads, 17% on bridges, 12% on storm drains, 2% on community paths, and 1% on marinas and lagoons each. We've had several projects that either began in 2024 or 2025 that have been completed, and of these projects, we are at 5,000 better than our budget projected. The members' equity balance at the end of June equals 14.8 million, which is an increase of 2 million since the beginning of this year. As of today, we have 20 non-assessment accounts that have a past due balance of 60 days or greater, and we have 9 assessment accounts that currently have a past due balance for 2025 or a year prior. I want to give us an update on our budget process for 2026. We are currently underway. Each of the departments have received their materials once we close the month of June. So they are now inputting and updating their budget work plans and what those numbers look like. We'll come back on August 1st. Those are due back to the finance staff. From there, the general manager, myself, and Caden, our budget analyst, will meet with each of the departments and review the work plans, along with the numbers that accompany those for operating and our capital reserves. After we get through that process, we'll invite our budget liaisons, which are members of the finance committee, to meet one-on-one with each of those departments. And then all of the board directors will be invited to the finance committee meeting when we are completed with all of the reviews, so that you can hear the reports from those liaisons that when they make that to the finance committee and the board. I'll continue to update the board along the way when we have information that we're ready to share after we get the information inputted. Any questions?
Thanks, Jessica.
All right, Aaron, community development report.
All right, I'm happy to be here to present to you the community development activity for June of 2025. In terms of the number of permits issued per month, we are still seeing a continuation of higher than expected permitting. We had 129 versus 113 the same time as last year. In terms of the activity of the ARC, we had a couple of months where we had less activity than previously. This was one of them, where we had 28 applications versus 38 the year before. However, we are still having greater activity than what we had in total last year in the same amount of months. So we're still seeing higher than expected activity in that committee as well. Our summary of construction activity, we had 2 new homes completed, so we're at 5 total for this year. 1 new home broke ground. We're at 19 active construction sites, 8 major improvements were permitted, 73 minor improvements, 38 dumpsters, pods, or porta johns, and then we had 8 permit extension requests. In terms of trends, we have those new construction activity continues. This is a home over on 27 Cotton Crossing on the left and on the right at 2 Top Gallant. So those are in various areas of the community. We're still seeing lots of activity spread throughout. Properties in violation, we had 21 versus 23, so the numbers are remaining pretty steady and comparable with last year. In terms of courtesy notices, similar as well, 24 versus 19. And then in terms of our summary of inspection activity, we had 367 site visits related to ARC inspections. 1,520 properties were inspected for private property maintenance, proactive inspections. 49 were follow-up inspections. And then we had 18 properties that resulted in violations with a 91% without formal written notice. And then our breakdown of violation categories, we were split 40%, 40% home maintenance and landscaping, 5%, 5% on dead, disease, and hazardous trees and ARC related, and then 10% were damaged driveways or driveway maintenance. Any questions?
What's ARC related?
That would be like if someone either had a violation on a construction site or was starting work without a permit, something like that. So it would be something that was a violation of the architectural guidelines rather than the covenants or the private property maintenance standards. Sure.
All right, thank you, Tim, with security. All right.
right, just a brief overview of June statistics and some statistics year to date. You see in June we had 2 Part 1 crimes and 1 theft. The Part 1 crimes was a tag was stolen off of trailer on Priest Landing, and 2 electric scooters were stolen off club property. And the additional crime that was reported was a theft of a decorative mailbox off a Highgate. No vandalisms or trespassing incident recorded. As a reminder, CCPD does have jurisdiction on our roadways, and they did all have a reckless driver citation for a resident's son last month. And speaking of careless driving, we still have far too many vehicle versus gate incidents, 87 year to date. And most of that is just inattention to detail. We have flashing and solid green and red lights. Pay attention to those, please, as you enter the community. And just pay attention to the barrier arm. When that light starts flashing, that barrier arm is coming down, and you will not beat it through the gate. So please help us lower those stats.
87, you said?
87
How
today.
many were residents and how many were vendors?
Predominantly residents by a far cry, but of course we have more residents entering.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the proportion is on that, but to me it doesn't make any difference if you're a resident employee or just a vendor coming in for the first time. Slow down and pay attention. Red means stop, right?
As does the stop sign.
Right? Yeah. So, enough said on that. And again, the long-term effects, interestingly enough, we all know that we're having problems with the Deer Creek McWhorter Gate. We ran the statistics on vehicle versus gates, and believe it or not, even though that gate gets less traffic than a lot of the other gates, it was one of the higher ones to have vehicle versus gate accidents. So maybe that's causing some additional wear and tear on those gate mechanisms, and that is, it's not helping the problem, that's for sure. So golf cart statistics, as you can see there, 4 complaints, 13 violations issued, and out of that 13, we had 11 unlicensed drivers in the month of June. So as another note on that, we are starting to patrol and actively pursue, again, continuing unlicensed drivers. And as a reminder, the only motorized vehicles on the community pass are golf carts and class 1 and 2 bikes. So the motorized scooters and skateboards and things like that, they are not authorized on our pass. Citations, as you see, 7 in 2024, up to 51 this year, and the fines concurrent with that, up from 949 to 4,300. As you can see from this, most of the citations were for boat trailers parked overnight on property and overnight parking on the street. And this month we're starting to really kind of look for the covered vehicles. So again, if you have a covered vehicle that's prohibited, you have to have board discretion and an approval before you can have that parked in your property overnight. The appeals had 6 cases. They heard 5. 1 was delayed because remember the appeals committee had to leave, so they didn't have a quorum. All 5 were denied. Any questions? As a side note, myself and some of the supervisory staff members and admin are making a trip to Florida tomorrow, coming back on Saturday. We have a Gated Community Managers Association meeting down there, and we're going to take the opportunity and benchmark to the communities down there. The benchmarking is more just to see what other communities doing, best practices and things like that. We'll hand them a worksheet for our budget to see what they're doing for fines and fees and things like that. How they handle golf carts and where they put the golf carts on the road, or if they have community pass and stuff like that. That'll all be part of the benchmarking.
And hardware and software.
Yeah, we're not going to try and kill them. I'm going to try and limit our time there for an hour and a half to 2
Well, I'm
hours.
talking about your event, you're right, not the 2 site visits, but your security.
Yeah, so they normally have a sponsor that pays for lunch and golf afterwards. I will not be golfing. It's too hot. But this one does, in particular, access control. Unfortunately, it's all the way down to Naples, so I don't think they're going to dispatch anybody up here. But to see what brands they use and best practices for them, and to, again, talk to some of the people down there about the vendors and what their response is, and if they're very proactive, if they sign maintenance agreements with their vendors and things like that for the gates.
Brian?
Again, it may seem very simplistic, but because of the number of contacts we do have the gates, I think that some kind of a very simple little educational program on gate process.
Yeah, that's perfect timing, so, and she is making a, what's the proper term now, like a flip chart or something?
Storyboard.
It's a storyboard on our gates and how do they work and kind of breaking it down, a kind of fun educational process that I think will get people's attention, that they might pay attention to and say, and the light bulb will click, you know. Most of the time it's just speed and attention to detail and watch where you're going.
So video to come on that.
Slow down.
Nice.
Yeah. So I would expect that's going to be done within the next 2 months.
And Tim, clearly, you've shown me the statistics. The vast majority of our gate downtime is as a result of people who have impacted the gate.
It's a whole host of things, but yeah, I mean, that adds to it, absolutely.
All right, thank you. Sean, lagoon valve replacement.
Right, if everyone in their packets, you'll see a staff report. Report recommending a contract with Penholster Construction LLC, which is known as Pinco, in the amount of $46,750. We also have an additional $5,500 in there for contingency for any unknowns, because this is submerged underwater. We could have some additional work that needs to happen on the brick structure. And $2,000 for repair of landscape, for total project cost of $54,250. This structure is actually one of our drawdown waterman gate valves. It's actually used to pull down water levels in an event of a hurricane or large. It seems like we have 100-year storms every 3 to 4 weeks now. So in that event, we can bring those down and get the water out of the lagoons to have that additional capacity. The current structure, this was not budgeted for this year, but the current structure is actually broken and is inoperable and unable to be opened. So we're trying to move very quickly to have Pinco go ahead and have this replaced prior to any storms. And so they're starting to work through the process now. And again, we're looking for approval for a total project cost of $54,250 with Pinco LLC.
May I have a motion for the 54th? Second?
Second.
Any questions for Sean? Any discussion?
So these are corrosion resistant gates,
This is
supposedly?
it's an aluminum structure. The biggest challenge is typically these structures will separate saltwater and freshwater lagoons. And so no matter where you put it, you're always gonna have contact with saltwater. And so the good thing that they've done, and one of the problems we saw with the older structure, is they had 2 different metals that were utilized in the production. This one is 100% aluminum, which will kind of alleviate the issue of kind of a sacrificial metal similar to anode.
Are there a number of other these valves around, and can we anticipate future failures? Or?
Yes, so we replaced Lagoon 42, which is also in Oak Ridge, approximately 2 years ago now. We replaced that valve. There's been other ones that we've replaced throughout in Deer Creek, and we have a regular schedule for this one. This one just timed out prior to, so it is captured within our capital asset management plan, but it was not scheduled for this year. We try to push out. Yeah, I think we're 2 years out. So.
And we do inspect them twice annually.
And that's actually through this inspection is when they realized that the gate was snapped. And thankfully, with the golf course renovation, it snapped closed, not open. Because that's what happened in our other one. The golf course called and said, "Do you guys have any idea where all our water went?"
Any other questions for Sean? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
All right, ready to move on to board committees and special reports?
Yes.
Rosemary, do you have anything for the finance committee that Jessica hasn't covered? No, thank you. Governance committee,
Wait a minute, you can hear.
you're muted, Rosemary. If you wanted us to hear it, you're muted.
Okay, no, nothing. Jessica did a great job. The most important thing is we're going to do some education with our finance committee before we send them out to be the liaisons. We think, I think, and Jessica agrees, that we need to do some education, and we're going to do that at the next finance committee, what we really want them on, what they should be doing.
Thank you. Governance committee is Marion. She is not here. There are several matters that we are in the middle of. I don't think any of them are reportable at this point in time, but there will be some minor changes to some committee charters and those kinds of things. I said nothing really reportable right now. Nominating committee, Marion is also in charge of that. Maybe why she decided to abandon ship. The deadline was yesterday. We have 11 candidates. We are meeting, the committee is meeting next week. We will then be setting up interviews for the candidates and ultimately do our due diligence and interviews and come up with a slate of 6 candidates that will be submitted for election primarily in the month of September. And we will be having a meet and greet at the Palmetto Ballroom for everyone to have an opportunity to interact with the candidates. Strategic Water, Rob.
Sure. We did meet this month, last week. We reviewed our 2 strategic goals for the year with the group concerning potable water and water conservation. There's no new news on the Georgia Department of Environmental Protection issuing a new permit. We probably won't hear for quite some time, and that will affect us in 2030. But I am happy to say that the communication that we've done and the sale of smart water irrigation technology and the workshops that we're holding are proving very valuable. After halfway through the year, the average daily water pumped on a 12-month rolling basis is down 2.5% over prior year. And that's down, in 24 we were down 4% for the year. We set a goal of 2% this year, we're down 2.5%. If everything continues, we'll close the year comfortably 2% below last year. So in terms of our ability to access potable water, I don't see an issue for us right now. And conservation is improving, but we still have work to do. Regarding sea level rise and coastal flooding, we are announcing Catch the King. Patty's going to talk about it in her article. Carl's going to issue a notice this month. Lynn is helping me. There'll be an article in the next month's journal. There'll be announcements on Wednesday Wisdom. It'll be on the reader board. The club has also agreed in the wording that we put together for articles that have already gone to this week at the Landings, Skidaway Island and Neighbor, and the Skinny. And I expect each of the publications to put those articles probably in the September issues. Right now we have 20 volunteers signed up and trained for Catch the King. I expect that to grow to at least 60. And what we're trying to do is measure the water level at high tide on November 6th using mobile technology where we capture the coordinates mapping around the island, and that will be downloaded onto a topographical map working with Sean, and that will be our year 1 footprint to understand our vulnerabilities and risk around sea level rise and coastal flooding, and we'll continue to do it each year and plan accordingly to protect the assets of the Land Association. That's all I got to say.
Do any of the directors have any other things that they want to raise or ask Rob about his report or anything else?
I'd just like to mention that we, the operational planning task force did 4 videos yesterday with a very able videographer. Thank you, Lynn, for arranging that. It's the beginning of a strategy for communicating with our Landings residents about the workings of everything we do. This is all in preparation for next year when we need to think about the assessment vote and things like what Rob just talked about. are going to be critical for that, because things like road raising to mitigate flooding ultimately will be an expensive proposition, but something we need to start thinking about now rather than the moment before the flooding happens. So it's a very interesting thing to do, and I thank everybody for participating. Don, do you have anything you want to say?
Thanks.
All right, anybody else has? I'll have a quick president's report. You can finish up then. We had some discussions during the drop-in, and Mark made some comments. The cooperation between the island entities, the club, the company, and the association are continuing. They've worked collaboratively on a cart path on hole 15 so that we can accommodate golfers and walkers and everybody going to the gazebo. The entities have worked together to emphasize the need, as Tim appreciates, for following rules and regulations from underage drinking to speeding to stop signs to fishing. So there is joint collaboration on those issues. The stormwater drain project is moving forward, and we'll soon have the engineering study as to the contribution samples from the various entities' properties, and then ultimately pursue a storm drain maintenance agreement. I would also note that the Coastal Empire Community Choice Awards has recognized all three entities by recognizing Landings Harbor, recognizing the Landings Golf and Athletic Club, and recognizing the Landings Real Estate Company. So that speaks well of our community. I'd like to make a special thanks to everybody who volunteers across the community, not only for the association, but for all of the wonderful activities that make our island the contributory factor to the greater Savannah area. Everybody does a great job, and we really are fortunate to have everybody here doing that. We do want to thank everybody who applied for the TLA board for next year. As I indicated, we're looking forward to meeting with all of them in August and selecting a slate and presenting that at our meet and greet. Rob has talked about water. We are doing a good job, but please don't waste water. We had over an inch plus of rain, up to 2 inches on island last night. So when I saw houses watering this morning, I kind of wanted to go, oh, it's not necessary, you're wasting water, so please try and be observant of the water rules and also how much Mother Nature has given us, that we don't need to double dip, if you will. Kids are returning to school next month. Please be aware, drive safely. As I noted earlier, we did actually have a long drop-in session. We had like 16, 18 people who were here. It was a very productive session. I think they appreciated it. I hope they did. And we have some work to do to get back to them and to follow up. And that's all I have. So anything else before we adjourn to executive session? All right, may I have a motion to adjourn to executive session? Second.
So moved.
All in favor? Thank you.